This is Business Decoded podcast with Ronnie Spellman. An informal chats with top business moguls as they share their stories of failure and success in a fun and relaxed way. Get entertained, educated, and unlock the secrets to success.
Welcome to Business Decoded podcast with Ronnie Spellman. I'm excited to welcome you to the new year. We have a fantastic guest who's just an extraordinary financial person. She considers herself a financial activist, Taylor Price. Welcome, Taylor.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So Taylor is the founder and CEO of Pricele. Tell me what it is that you do and how you launched. It's an incredible program. I've seen you all over television and social media. Absolutely amazing what you're doing for people around the globe, much less here in the United States. And it's worth mentioning, by the way, that you're part of that Gen Z group. So you've done so much in a relatively short period of time. And for our listeners, I often describe Gen Z. So that's from 1997 to 2012 when that group was born. But you're phenomenal. Tell us what you do.
Thank you so much. That was an amazing intro. And yes, I'm 25 now. I was born in 2000. I'm 100% a Gen Zer, all the lingo. And honestly, that's kind of, how it all began, right? So I actually started when I was 17. And as I mentioned, I'm 25. So I've been doing this for some years now. And it all started in this transition of pre-med to corporate finance as a result of spinal fusion surgery, 2 rods fused to my spine from scoliosis, which is an abnormal curvature of the spine. And then asking my mom eventually, what do I do with my life? I have no idea what I'm going to do. So in that transition to corporate finance was really the awakening of, I can know corporate finance and how to manage other people's money from a corporate perspective and a business perspective, yet I don't know anything about my personal finances. Right. That's going on in my own accounts. How do I manage and make my own money so that my money grows more money, not just focused on the corporate side of things? So,
Taylor, what I was going to say, what I heard is that you were in this class taking this really sophisticated financial modeling, and you went to a professor, if I remember correctly, and you asked, "What about a more simplified version for my personal?" And,
right, that's exactly how it went.
Yeah, and so you had the wherewithal to ask that question, and the response you got was what?
The response, and this was through my guidance counselor, actually, asking my guidance counselor at college. You go to them for guidance, right? And it was, am I missing a general education course on personal finance? I just got into the financial analyst honors program at University of Albany. And immediately went into discounted cash flows and financial statement analysis and all the things that people don't need to hear on the everyday basis. And yet I was like, I thought I'm going to be learning as well about the Roth IRA and how I can eventually make my money work for me when I grow up. And turned out at that time in 2017, 6 out of 50 states in the United States required a personal financial education course to graduate. And where I grew up in Hudson Valley, New York, just New York State alone, that wasn't a requirement to go ahead and graduate at high school.
Wow. And I think you mentioned that 8 out of 10 young adults leave school without learning how to manage their money.
Right.
But how does someone find the courage at 17-ish to become a financial expert? I'm sure plenty of people told you that it'll take you decades to reach the level that you've already reached. But how do they find that wherewithal and focus and discipline and energy and the courage even?
I think for me, the question is 2-pronged. So I had a major life event that happened to me when I was 14, this life-altering surgery where I had to relearn to walk. It was not a minor surgery. It was a major surgery. I was in the hospital in the ICU for about 2 weeks. And I spent my entire summer recovering and having to go to physical therapy for the next several years in a row. And so with that in mind, it became very clear to me that life is very short and that I need to decide and have an understanding of this is what I want to accomplish in this lifetime. I don't know what's going on in the next one, but I do want to figure out very quickly what's going on in this one. So that was one end. On the other end is I grew up in a industrial laundromat, small family business.
Okay.
A lot of hard work. My parents are one of the most hardworking people that I know. And so money conversations were just always happening at the dinner table. Unlike most American households, growing up where money, religion, and politics was a taboo one to talk about at the dinner table, for me, it was this account, accounts receivable, like where is our money at? We need this money. Bills have to be paid, accounts payable, like all these woven conversations regarding finance. And so between those two realms, it just became clear to me to ask that guidance counselor of, Harry, I've had this conversation at home, also from the business perspective,
Right.
on where's my money from other people. But, what's going on with me? I'm turning 18. How do I pay my own taxes?
Right. What's pretty neat, and I definitely want you to explain more about what you do online. I think you have your own podcast, the messages that you're giving people, but you mentioned your family and your dinner table discussions. If I recall correctly, your mom had a major influence as well in helping you understand that finance was an option. How did that conversation go for you? And, it's neat because it sounds like at a young age, you were talking about cash flow from your parents' business perspective and how do you make sure that you can probably pay payroll and pay the light bill, which is an incredible education at such a young age, even before you get to college. But what role did your mom play?
She was it. She lit the torch for me. As I like to say, she lit the torch, and she's now on me to continue to pass it on and light that fire for generations to continue.
Nice.
Honestly, she's the one who helped me start this journey. I asked her, what do I do with my life? She graduated from college from Baruch. It's a CUNY school, a city of New York school back in the day. And at that time as well, too, it wasn't a woman-dominated field. It was definitely a male-oriented one. And so she really helped me push forward the barriers of entry and challenge the status quo of chatting about it online, quite honestly. And when I first started posting on a blog, then transitioned to YouTube, to TikTok and Instagram, the Twitter community, where there's a lot of smart individuals who, mainly work on Wall Street. It is a very prim and proper and a traditional side of finance. Did not like what they were seeing with the young 17, 18-year-old talking about budgeting and starting my own journey on the Roth IRA and opening up my own credit card.
Right.
So she had a lot of influence.
Yeah, I think I read a quote that when people talking about the traditional way, your perspective is no thanks. Here's how you go about making money and becoming wealthy and building for your retirement. But walk us through your strategy. What do you tell people? You've been doing this for a while. It's exciting.
Thank you so much. And I feel it all starts with the mindset. My mom and going back to my mom and my parents, they told me growing up, money doesn't grow on trees.
Right.
Again, that was another conversation that happens at the dinner table. And so after thinking about it for quite some time, I'm like, how can I make money grow on trees? Let's kind of come up with a synergy. So it all starts with the seed that the money tree exists. The difference between a scarcity mindset and an abundance mindset. If you can believe that you can do, you will.
Right.
If you don't believe you can't, you won't.
Right.
So it's believing that this idea of the money tree actually exists. From there, then we start to get into the technicalities of it all. Okay, we have this money tree idea, right? Well, what are our roots? Our roots are our savings accounts and our emergency funds, so that if a storm comes by and tries to take down our tree, AKA we lose a job, we have a medical emergency where we need reserves, those roots are going to help ground us.
Right.
Then we grow this tree. Our trunk is a primary source of income, and we start to get to the top, the branches, what's all pretty, the leaves, the cash flow. This is investments, turning your side hustle into a business. But guess what? Those are a lot riskier. It's not as strong as the trunk, right? Your primary source of income.
Right.
Those branches could they could strike and fall at any point in time. But there's this opportunity where if you think of the leaves as the dollars, they can really grow and harvest the fruits at the end of the day. So it really starts with the idea that the money tree does exist, and that you have the power to make the choice to become financially literate.
Now, what do you think resonated? Well, so you launched the business, you go online, you have your accounts on social media. When did you realize that this makes sense to people and they're listening, and I have a responsibility now to give them good information? But at what point did that happen? Because you launched in 2019, right? 2019 through 2020. And by 2023, you were named a top 100 money expert by Go Banking Rates. That is pretty quick. But when did you realize it resonated with people and that you were making an impact?
Podcasts are so popular, even monkeys are doing it.
75% of Americans listen to podcasts monthly. That's 210 million people in the United States alone. And yes, podcasts are profitable. Joe Rogan is making $30 million per year. Your content, your knowledge is worth sharing. Don't just dream it, do it. Visit AndyCostaFilms.com/podcast and turn your content into leaks.
Immediately.
Okay.
When I started my blog started to grow around my community. And in that blog was literally, hey, my mom told me what the Roth IRA was today. I'm opening it up. Here's why. What I realized at the time was that it was attracting readers, not watchers, those who liked to read versus those that liked to watch. So I was missing a huge demographic of young people who were interested in watching and learning instead of reading and learning.
Gotcha.
So that naturally led me to YouTube and Instagram. And where it really took off was TikTok in December of 2019, where at that time, TikTok was a dancing platform just getting off of Musical.ly era. It was very different than what it is today, and even what it was in 2020 and 2022. So when I brought this message onto TikTok, it was the awakening for me was that it wasn't just a New York State problem where I grew up of this financial illiteracy, not having the financial education accessibility ready at our hands to the public. It wasn't just a United States problem,
Right.
or epidemic is what I called it at the time. It was a silent pandemic in the sense that global financial illiteracy is most definitely a real thing. And money is the number one cause of divorce. It causes stress. You just take a look at the American Psychological Association and see how much anxiety that money conversations contribute to.
Right.
So that's why I eventually coined it as this silent pandemic as COVID was going on.
Right.
But TikTok was the real, wow, this is a much bigger problem than just, me talking to my hometown and then just talking to some people across states. This was a global pandemic.
And that's fascinating. You're right. TikTok was very different as a dancing platform. How did you stand out with all of the dance videos that were taking place? Because I'm sure it must have been, for those looking at it, odd that you weren't dancing and you're providing financial information. But so that's really fascinating to me.
That's exactly how I stood out. I wasn't dancing. I come from a small hometown in upstate New York, not born and raised in LA or, on the camera or shows or anything like that. And so for me, I just got straight to the point with the financial literacy content. Yes, of course, here and there I participated in trends, but the majority of my content was really just talking to the camera and saying, I just opened up a brokerage account. How does a brokerage account differ from a Roth IRA?
Right.
All these different types of questions that eventually in life we get to, or we may not get to. I just did it in a public setting.
You know what's fascinating? So I've had human resources roll up to my operations at various different companies. And it's intriguing when I have the enrollment meetings with our employees around the country and I discuss the 401k options. And even the flexible spending account. So flexible spending account, people can put money away into the special account and use it for medical benefits, and they don't have to pay taxes on it. It lowers their taxable income. And when I discuss and they get a card, so you don't, in the old days, you used to have to spend the money and then you'd be reimbursed for it. Now you get a card for most businesses and it's pre-tax. And people really just didn't understand the concept, especially the younger. And it takes them a few decades when they get older, maybe have children, that they recognize the opportunity. But you're right, people wait a while before they understand it. And sometimes I think it's a little too long.
It is way too long. And actually, this is what I'm very proud to say, what I've contributed to my generation is that we are the most financially literate generation from the youngest age perspective. In addition, we're investing at 6 times the rate of which people just a decade ago, weren't. So we are definitely making strides. Accessibility is not necessarily the biggest issue anymore. Fractional shares exist. You can start with as little as $1 on some brokerage platforms versus, just 15, 20 years ago, when I was in the baby crib, essentially, you had to have some hundreds of dollars to start investing, at least in the S&P 500 or, some other ETFs or indexes. Right. So we are the most equipped generation to make a substantial amount of wealth, in addition to this great wealth transfer that will be coming from the previous generations.
You already mentioned that. One of the terms that I just read about recently, and I don't know if you've seen this, is called financial flexing for the generation. And it's described as people spending a fair amount of money online on their social media accounts to look a certain way online. And so whether staying in the nice hotels or spending at a lavish restaurant. And I found that really fascinating, that that's kind of an offshoot of this social media presence. I don't know if you spend any time looking at it and guiding people on how to manage through how they want to look on social media.
I do not. Financial flexing is a concept that I haven't heard the coin termed before, but it's definitely something that I see happen. And as far as social media goes, it's a digital resume. You create yourself how you want to be perceived, and then eventually you become. What you consume is who you become. So when it comes to the financial aspect of it, I was just speaking to on another interview earlier today where back in the day, in my parents' generation, if you owned a home, you were considered, you've done the American dream. You've checked this box off. Through Gen Z, it's a little bit different now, where the home checkbox thing is not necessarily the thing as it was the thing some generations ago. Now, as you mentioned, it's this perception of freedom. What does that look like? That might look like going on vacation and posting about it on social media, going on a fancy dinner, or going out and looking good. This all has this attribution to this wealth, financial freedom, that type of thing. So I definitely see that happening.
Right. And I read a different article, completely different from the one that I mentioned, that was really fascinating. And I didn't know this person, but Marie Kondo, I don't know if you've heard her name, but she speaks about organizing your home. And the way they describe their perspective on approaching financial management is like hers, and that's just keeping investing simple. Right? Not trying to overcomplicate it through some of these fancy investments. And it sounds like your approach is really very similar. Like, here's a good strategy for how to keep that process simple.
It is so very, very simple and similar to what you're saying. And this is actually where social media comes in that sometimes it misconstrues how simple it can be.
Right.
There's this association that complexity is what creates wealth.
Right.
When in reality, it's the simplicity of it. It's the consistent investments over time in simple index funds or ETFs that truly compound your wealth. If you try and complicate things, it will be complicated.
Right.
And it's harder to manage. That's how it's going to be. So I absolutely love that approach. And that's one that definitely follow.
So Taylor, I've worked with a lot of business owners and leaders just to understand two items, Gen Z and how they need to pivot in their marketing to connect with that audience, the Gen Z audience that's now in the workforce. They're becoming managers and leaders. Soon they'll become senior leaders if they already aren't. What would you say to that business leader that is from a prior generation on how they can connect with that Gen Z audience? Because you've done an incredible job at using the platforms. And I think a lot of us have dismissed social media. Now we can't, right? It is here to stay. It is very influential. I was speaking with one of the big hotel brands recently, and they were creating traditional television marketing ads. And they were missing. I asked someone who was around 17 a few weeks ago, if you were searching for a hotel, where would you go to search? Go on Google or Reddit or where? They mentioned going on TikTok or Instagram, actually, to search for a hotel or a restaurant. But that's their platform for finding nearly anything. But why would you give...
Surprising.
I know it's incredible, but I think some of these CEOs that are in place now might be missing that. You know, they have other people giving them guidance and they're doing a good job. But what would you give them from an advice perspective, outside of your financial advice to young people, but for those companies looking to reach the audience that might view you, what would you tell them?
Meet them where they're at. As you mentioned, you asked a 17-year-old, you can ask any Gen Zer where they're first beginning their search. It is going to be on TikTok or Instagram.
Right.
Why? This generation is visual. Again, I even tried to start as a blog. And that blog, yes, it grew a little bit, but where did I hit a home run? Yeah. Visually, through videos, through photographic, visual content. And so CEOs really need to recognize that if they're not going to, if Gen Z isn't going to be on LinkedIn, where they're going to be at? Okay, they're going to be at TikTok. Right. And it's not trying to be that generation themselves. I think the companies that are going to succeed from the marketing perspective is actually utilizing a Gen Z native, to go ahead and run and lead that social media marketing team, or just general marketing team, because they speak the language. Right. It comes off organically. It's almost a difference of ChatGPT if you ask it to try and speak like Gen Z, right now it speaks very icky. Like it tries to be Gen Z, right, but it's not Gen Z. And it comes off, reading it as a Gen Zer is like, ooh, I don't really talk like that. So that's exactly why you need the human capital in place and the younger generations to be involved in these conversations on the marketing team. Yes, they might have started, but their voice is just as powerful when the landscape has most definitely changed. Right.
Now, I don't think we mentioned that earlier, speaking of the social media. If you don't mind, tell us about your following. You have a huge following. Huge. So that's over 1 million? Yeah.
Yes. So I have over 1 million followers, as you mentioned, across platforms, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn. Yes, LinkedIn is now prioritizing video content. Right. Go and check it out, business leaders. Substack, a newsletter. All the major platforms were on it.
And you know what's intriguing to me as well? I was at an event the other day, and the producer and I had researched this before just to validate it. But the largest distributor of video content today is YouTube. They distribute more and make more available than all the other platforms, Netflix and Hulu. It's just incredible what you can find on that specific platform from a video content perspective.
Absolutely.
That's just amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. And, for our generation, we really look at it as YouTube University.
Right.
Okay, go ahead. We are in the knowledge economy. Aside from AI being able to translate anything into your particular language so that you can learn, once again, visually, YouTube is the place to go. If I have a flat tire, I'm not going to read a book on how to fix a flat tire. Where am I going to go? I'm going to watch a YouTube video to see how to fix a flat tire.
Right. Well, I've spent time learning how to tie a bow tie.
Right, exactly.
So tell us about your website. You have an incredible website. What can people find on your website? What do you want them to do once they reach your website? You have several different programs. Tell us how someone can find you and participate in this learning process.
Absolutely. So as you mentioned, you can go ahead and go to pricelesstay.com. That's Priceless Tay. And yes, my name is actually Taylor Price. I tell people that I was kind of born for this. So on the website there is so much free, accessible content between the rich routine, which is this budgeting method that I've created with 5 accounts, and how to split up your money when you get your paycheck, so that, yes, you can have your avocado toast too and not have to worry about it. There's so much available content that's there. And then in addition, as you mentioned, we do have coaching as well. So if you're looking for a little bit more accountability, want that person to speak to on, I have this financial situation, where do I go? Can you take a look? We offer that as well.
Right. Well, and you mentioned avocado toast, and I've said this a lot, whether you're looking to lose weight or whether you're looking to save money, you don't have to give up avocado toast. You just have to plan well for it. And so if I know that I need to watch my diet, I'm still going to have the ice cream and the cake. I just don't eat a lot of it or a lot of the other items. I make room for it. Exactly. And I presume the same is the way for, back when I was getting my career started, I didn't eat out every day or go to the coffee shop every day, because I thought the $6 cup of coffee, if I save that 5 days a week, then I can start to build up a small nest egg and then invest it. And I presume yours is the same way. Don't give up the avocado toast, but
Right.
just learn to manage it. What would you say?
Exactly. Yeah. It's the idea of being reactive versus proactive.
Right.
Most people go about their lives with reactive. This happened to me, instead of I'm going out and creating it for myself.
Right.
So that's where this rich routine eventually comes in, where you're setting your paycheck amount and saying, I'm allocating this amount so that I can have my avocado toast, my matcha latte, and that $6 coffee. I personally don't drink coffee. I like a matcha, but the point is there, right?
Right. So we are Business Decoded. I know you have a lot of points for the individual and the young person, but as we close out, tell us what it means to start your business. So you took the gamble of posting online and talking about finance, and then the next big gamble was really creating this business entity that is now your own and is growing. But what did that feel like, creating your own business? You came up with a great name using your name for your business, but what did it feel like? What would you tell someone that's looking to start a business? So they have a great idea. They may have been posting online. They're part of this gig economy. But now they need to turn it into an actual business. What does that feel like? What would you say to that person looking to start an actual business?
As what a business is, it's equity. What does that mean? It's ownership. This is something that you own, that you control, that you can decide whatever you put your heart and mind to go ahead and build and create. I also tell people when working on my team, there's a reason why great companies happen. It's because of great company. That is literally the word and the definition of what company is. Right. So when going about and creating a business and a company, it's not just about yourself. It really is about the people who you align yourself with in order to get to that next level.
Right. Very impressive. And so did you have any hesitations in making that transition and starting the actual business versus just keeping it as a separate online entity?
No, I grew up in a business. And so that perception of failure and risk wasn't as prevalent as someone who might have grown up in a more traditional setting. Both my parents are in the business. And so they're like, okay, if you fall flat on your face, get up and work twice as hard and fall flat again. Okay, go ahead. Good. It's the idea of being comfortable with being uncomfortable. Right. And I also tell people, well, if you want to succeed, you have to be just as comfortable failing twice as fast.
Right.
Because that's what it takes.
Right. I appreciate you mentioning the failing piece. I've mentioned this previously on one of our programs, but I heard an entrepreneur say this about winning and losing from a business perspective. He said, you don't lose. Either you win or you learn. Right. So if it doesn't go perfect, you learn from it and you make it more perfect the next time. But there is no such thing as an entrepreneur as losing, because you're learning in that process.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So what would you say to your mom now that you've kind of, through this program, what would you say to your mom and at this point in your existence in creating the business? Because you've just done so much so quickly. Like what message would you tell your mom?
Yeah, Mom, money trees exist. Point blank, that's it.
Very cool. Tell her it's been an incredible experience having you on the program. What's next? What's next for you from a business perspective?
Yes. So we're working on a debut book. We, as in me, myself, and I, authoring it, and then working closely with a publishing house. So that you should be looking forward to that at the end of 2026 to early 2027.
Very nice. And just real quick as well, what are some of the programs you've been on? You've been everywhere. I am so amazed.
Oh, yeah. I've been on Good Morning America, Fox Business, Fox News, Wall Street Journal, Forbes, so much. I've been all over the place, and I'm truly honored to be. I consider myself this vessel just for the message to be heard, regardless of what network it is or media platform. Sometimes there's a political association with some. The point for me is that financial education should be accessible for all. And I'm going to go where that voice wants to be heard.
Well, and you mentioned earlier, meet people where they are. When you're talking to executives, you go to the right social media platform, and the same thing across the board. If there are people watching that need financial guidance, you need to go there and meet them wherever they are.
Right. Yeah.
I love it. So you have to promise me you'll come back on our program. This has been an absolute delight. You're amazing. Keep doing what you're doing and stay in touch with us.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you for joining us on Business Decoded with Ronnie Spellman.
Thank you for listening to Business Decoded podcast with Ronnie Spellman. Please be sure to subscribe and share and stay tuned for more incredible Business Decoded episodes.